Okay, with that, let's call the meeting to order. Can we have roll call?
I'm present. All right. Mr. Modica?
Here.
Ms. Headland?
Present.
Mr. Miller? Ms. Orcherton?
Here.
Ms. Salmon?
Here?
Mr. Pinilla?
Here.
Ms. Williams?
Okay. Next, we're going to move to approval of the minutes of the previous meetings. We have two sets of minutes to approve for November 12th and December 4th. I had a minor correction to the November 12th meeting. The adjournment was declared, the meeting was declared adjourned by me. So, anybody have any other comments or corrections? Okay, in that case, I move that we approve the minutes of the previous meeting.
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, I'm going to move on then to the staff report.
I just wanted to first make a quick comment about additions to the agenda. In
Yeah,
fact,
I'm
it's more of an omission from the agenda.
Right.
Emily Knox of Makerspace Urbana will be presenting at a future meeting, so that presentation will not happen this evening. Good evening, everyone. I'm presenting the December staff report for the Arts and Culture program. And I want to begin by saying that really kind of taking a temperature check of the commission about our next meeting. If you would prefer to do a visioning in January or February, I'd love to hear if there's any preferences in the room as we decide which of those 2 monthly meetings will be turned into a visioning, in which we would suspend grant applications and ask them to come the following month.
I would prefer January.
Okay. Any other preferences?
Go ahead.
I'm fine with staying with January.
Okay.
Either way's fine with me.
I'm hearing a preference for January. Unless anyone has a preference for February, I think we'll move forward with the January plan.
Okay, sure.
Sound good?
Mhm.
All right. That does assist me with planning for those particular meetings. I also just want to indicate that today's presentation will be followed by a presentation from the School of Social Work students that we've been working with, and I'll talk to you about that in a moment. But let me begin by saying that we have had some additional staffing support here at the Urbana Arts and Culture program, and that comes through collaboration with two organizations that I've mentioned at previous meetings. The first is the Social Work 461 class, which is a professional practice seminar. The students have been placed to work with the Urbana Arts and Culture program, with myself serving as a site supervisor for those students. This has been a group of 3 students who recently completed their work with the program. This is a semester-long class and are currently in their finals week. As part of the program, they are asked to give a presentation, and I wanted them to give that presentation to you so that you get a chance to see the things that they worked on this year. So those students will be presenting following our grant presentations this evening, and that's really just due to some scheduling concerns. I also want to mention the Women in Leadership program. This is our group of students that have been working with us this semester through the Women in Leadership program through the University YWCA. The Women in Leadership program has only 3 sites this year, and we're one of those sites of all Champaign County organizations. This group of students has been tasked with kind of meeting a couple of challenges, and the challenges I gave them were to assess our programs for how well they speak to the full diversity of the Urbana community, so really looking at the diversity of our programs, both cultural and social identity diversity, but also kind of how we represent the arts, making sure we're representing different creative sectors within the arts. And their second challenge was to look at how well we're outreaching to people college age and teens. And so they're also looking at which programs might appeal to those populations. And what they do is they spend a lot of time evaluating and participating in the organization. And then in the spring, they'll actually try to implement some kind of changes and solutions for those two challenges, or things that we can kind of consider as we do planning. So I think their assessments too can inform some of our longer visioning for the program. I want to first and foremost acknowledge that our biggest initiative right now is our Urbana Arts Grants. As you all know, we just wrapped up our Tier 3 grant cycle, but Tiers 1 and 2, as well as Arts in the Schools, which is now included into Tier 1, are all due on January 15th. So I want to just point out that, again, we're giving up $80,000 out to artists, arts organizations, and festival presenters for arts activities that take place within Urbana. The program is open to all disciplines, and the Tier 1 grants are between $500 and $1,500, Tier 2 between $2,000 and $4,500. We gave 6 workshops in the community emphasizing best practices in grant writing. The program is offering 2 drop-in support opportunities. These were all-day drop-in hours where I and Heather Ann are spending some time in a local public place where folks can drop by and get one-on-one support for their grant questions. The first one that we did took place yesterday, Monday, December 8th. That sounds wrong. It's the 10th, the 9th, at Cafe Paradiso. And Monday, January 6th will be our next one at Starbucks on Vine. Both of those are from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. We did have a number of people come by yesterday, so much that I think we had a pretty constant stream the whole day of conversations going on. So that was pretty wonderful. And then we had a few people that were willing to kind of sit in group to talk to us. So we had a couple of instances where 2 or 3 people were seated at the table at once getting feedback on their grants. We note that these grant workshops and the drop-in hours oftentimes present opportunities for people to network too. So that was true yesterday as well, where people found collaborations with people that they were at the table with. This is true of our grant workshops. So I find these to be very valuable. One thing that we are doing is our plan is to film the next grant workshop that we do so that we'll have a version of the workshop that is viewable online. I always emphasize that it still is valuable to be in person for the reasons I stated. It's great to network with other artists, to be able to ask your questions in real time, and to meet with me as the coordinator and other staff that we have. So while we will always emphasize that the grant workshop should be attended in person, I like that we'll soon have a resource available for folks to watch that in full. And once we do, I will send it out to all of you, because if any of you here haven't seen yet that grant workshop, this is a great opportunity for you as well. Next, I just want to mention, so again, I mentioned the drop-in grants hours, but our next topic of conversation is really the Artist of the Quarter exhibition series. So I just wanted to show you some images from our most recent closing reception for the Belongings exhibition. This was not just a dual-site exhibit, but we added also Spurlock Museum for World Cultures. So they did a display of the objects that came from the homes of local immigrants that told a story about their relationship to memory, artifact, and the meaning of home. We had a closing reception that was actually a collaboration with our Open Scene program. So we had an immigrant story slam where lots of local immigrants featured stories or had their stories read by a volunteer at the program. We also had Ballet Folklorico doing a Mexican folk dance kind of midway through the event. And then we also had a performance from Jean-René Baliquita and Bomoyi doing Congolese rumba and gospel music. But this took place on the 20th of November. I'm excited to also announce our upcoming exhibit. This will be installed tomorrow. The Passions Project is actually a touring exhibit of black and white photographs made in collaboration with Clark Lindsey Village. This is an exhibition of portraits of residents from Urbana's Clark Lindsey. These striking black and white portraits capture older adults at Clark Lindsey engaged in their passions. They were created in collaboration with a national photographer, Heidi Wagner, and the project hopes to redefine how we perceive aging by allowing viewers to forge connections with subjects that challenge traditional views of aging. All of the participants were invited to be photographed doing something that they love, and the resulting photographs are really, really wonderful. We're going to be installing them tomorrow. The exhibition will be on display through the end of January. We do have an opening reception this Friday from 11 a.m. to 12 noon. And we wanted to have it kind of midday to also accommodate the schedules of some of the seniors that participated so that they're able to come as well. So we will have residents from Clark Lindsey, and we've invited the general public to come, so we hope you'll be able to make it as well. There will be a closing reception that will feature actually sort of a mini talent show, especially from those whose passions were music or the arts. And I'm excited to announce that at a later time. We're still developing the date on that. I want to speak to you just briefly about some of the developments with Urbana Poet Laureate Will Rieger. So as you know, we have been working with Will on a number of initiatives that he has, including Poets on a Park Bench and a weekly poetry prompt. He's done a lot of speaking engagements, including last evening was featured at the Poets at the Post regular reading series through CU Poetry Group. He's had appearances in news media, done open mics, and he also was a featured reader at the recent Belongings exhibition closing I just mentioned. He's soon going to be partnering with Urbana School District 116 to offer a number of writers' workshops to high school age students and the middle school students. And the hope is then that the students will be participating in an upcoming project that we're calling the Poetry Postcard Project, where we'll have poetry displayed alongside of or kind of combined with visual art. Those postcards will be displayed in an exhibition that will also take place at Common Grounds Gallery and here at City Hall and the library. It'll also extend to anyone who would like to submit, so there will be a particular exhibit of the teens' work over in Common Ground, but then the broader exhibit will be open to anyone who would like to submit poetry or visual art that complements poetry. I also want to mention that we're really delighted that Will Rieger recently released his own book of poetry called Petroglyphs, and that is going to be a feature of Krannert Uncorked on January 23rd. So I invite you all out. Again, 5 to 7 p.m. is when Krannert Uncorked takes place. Will be selling some of his books, but he'll also be reading some of the work, and we'll consider that a mini book release and special reading. Will's also putting together something that we're calling the Poet Laureates, I believe it's the Poet Laureates Showcase. And this will be what we hope to be an annual tradition where the Poet Laureate will select local poets that person would like to showcase in kind of a, the Poet Laureate Selected Me opportunity where they'll read at the Urbana Free Library. So that's another project that's coming up in the spring. And lastly, I just want to mention another initiative that he has going on, well, two truly. One is the Poems on Glass. So this is going to be released this week, but Poems on Glass is an initiative that invites poets to submit poems inspired by our Murals on Glass program. So as you know, we have the Murals on Glass program offer opportunities for artists to have their artwork printed on adhesive vinyl and put on our downtown windows. We have a number of murals in downtown Urbana. The Poet Laureate has selected 4, and those 4 will be opportunities for artists to write a poem and have it submitted. And the deadline for that will be on January 31st. The poems will be printed also on adhesive vinyl and put next to the images on those buildings. So that's another initiative we're excited about. And he's also doing a lot of work, as was described in his original application, to do some work around veterans and folks who are incarcerated. So he has some plans in the work to work with the Center for Wounded Veterans and some other organizations locally to offer workshops, and he's doing that in collaboration with a therapist that specializes in arts therapy practice, and really hoping that we'll also be able to either produce some small chapbook or something out of that project too. But that one's coming up more in the spring, but I'll keep you posted.
I have a small question.
Yeah.
Rachel, do you happen to know what press Petroglyphs is coming out through?
I don't, actually. I don't recall offhand. I do have a copy of it in my office if you'd like to go check afterwards, though. And I'll be sure to share that information online.
Suggestion? Maybe it's on his Facebook page.
Yeah, it most
his
likely
website,
is.
I would
He's
think.
shared a lot of information, and it was released, a small release last night at Poets at the Post. I'll also just mention And these are some pictures from some of the Poets on a Park Bench interviews that are going to be released soon. Again, these are our mini-series featuring local poets being interviewed by our poet laureate and sharing their work, coming out monthly. I also want to mention that our current art now features local painter Atef Ayadi. This piece will be featured very soon. He's a local painter, and his works are sometimes mixed media and a lot of times oil paintings. I'll also mention that a lot of our regular series continue, in particular Art in the Square. As you know, we wrapped up Art at the Market from the Summer Farmers Market, but now that this market's squarely indoors, we are part of Market in the Square concert series, and we'll be featuring the Merry Travelers on December 14th, this upcoming Saturday. All of the concerts take place at 10 a.m., so we invite you to come out and witness a concert at the Holiday Market. I also want to mention that since our last meeting, we've had a couple of different Young Artist Studio workshops that I'm not sure were mentioned in previous staff reports. One is our Make Your Own Masterpiece Young Artist Studio. That was actually kind of spearheaded by our two interns, Camelia and Corinne, and Sylvia came and helped as well. And then most recently, this past Sunday, we had bilingual yoga for kids. So this came from a teacher who both is a bilingual teacher and who teaches yoga, who combines both, and as a playful way to teach children multiple languages. And it was lovely, and it's been actually kind of shared around quite a bit on our social media, including by other larger, broader library networks that were interested to see that our local library is featuring programs like this. Our next one is going to be called Paint Your Good Things, and this is part of the Good Things Urbana project that invites folks to paint on a canvas the things that kind of make them feel good and get them excited about their lives and about their lives here in Urbana. There's going to be an exhibition of these mini canvases made by folks in the community. A lot of them are children, but of course people of all ages. This will be in the display case at the Urbana Free Library January and February, so you'll get a chance to see that as well. And then I want to mention about some sculpture updates. We still haven't really settled completely on the Tumble Arch location and installation, but I hope to have some updates soon. But I do have updates about races, and that is that we did work with the library to get that solar light illumination going on this sculpture, so I invite you to check that out at nighttime and give your feedback on how you think that looks. But that's a new initiative to kind of highlight that sculpture through the winter months. And most recently, we juried Murals on Glass. So we were able to select our 2020 Murals on Glass selection for Cunningham Township, and it's In the Sunshine by Black Mau. Black Mau is a collaboration between Kamau Grantham and Stacy Robinson, our former Arts and Culture Commissioner. Mm-hmm. And the two of them have been collaborating on a number of collage works, so this comes out of that initiative. So we're really excited to be putting that on the front windows of Cunningham Township. Currently working to kind of get it all ready for installation, and usually what we try to do is wait for a warmer day, and the most recent week would have worked out, but we didn't have it all together for that week. So if we do have a warmer day, we'll install it quickly before the spring. If not, you'll see it in the spring. I just want to mention, too, we've got routinely try to promote our work outside of our program and outside of our regular events. And one of the things that I'm doing in February is going to be visiting the Rotary Club of Urbana and giving them a follow-up to a presentation I gave, I think, almost a year ago at this point or more, about the Arts and Culture program, some new initiatives that have come out. I'm going to be talking about our Poet Laureate program and other things that we have going on. So I wanted to share with you that. And I'm also participating again and representing our program at the 4th Annual Grantathon at the University of Illinois. And really this is designed to teach University of Illinois students and then any community members that come about grant opportunities available to them. So I'll be talking to them about our arts grant program. And that is all for today.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, next we're going to have grant presentations. First one is Seth Fine and Patrick Singer, who are going to present 2019 Pygmalion.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi,
Hi,
welcome
everyone.
back.
How's everyone?
Doing okay?
we'll start by saying thank you for funding us again next year. That's a really big deal for us. So, yeah, that's great. Thank you. And for funding the rest of them as well, of course. But we're not here to talk about 2020. We're here to talk about the year that was. We're in our reflective mode at Smile Politely as well. I get into a lot of trouble this week. Worst is coming
For
Friday.
fun.
For fun. What do I touch to move a thing?
Just the arrow?
The arrow.
Ah.
Okay.
Well, despite this saying 2020 on here, this is
Yeah.
upcoming, but branding is the same. But we're going to talk about
That's
How-
all. We didn't tell our designer to change it, so
we are
All right.
we are but humans.
we're out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so look, the best way we know how to recap this to you all is to just go through a list of the artists, the authors, the venues, the festival. It's the best thing I think we know how to do. We did a lot of recap in the last one, and so we'll spare you a rehash of that. I think you get where we're coming from. We've heard you. We saw on the list of what your expectations are. I think we've got questions as to how to best fulfill those. We'll get to that hopefully after the thaw. So for now, let's just go through a list of everything as much as we can. So we presented Pygmalion in September of 2019. And as we said, we did our very best to try to create as much space as we possibly could for a very diverse array of performers and thinkers and speakers. And on Thursday, we started off at Urbana Free Library with Mahogany L. Brown. This is a partnership that we've carried now with Urbana Free Library for 3 years running. The foundation that operates surrounding Urbana Free Library generously assigns a certain amount of money to a reading. We've designed it such that it happens to take place on the weekend of Pygmalion. We work with Celeste and her team to define who that author is going to be. They're really in the driver's seat there. We're pretty open when it comes to authors in particular about who we're presenting because, while of course I did go to school for creative writing, I don't feel like much of a true authority on presenting authors. But they always do a great job. They did Liz Acevedo last year, who ended up winning a National Book Award in poetry, children's poetry, I believe. And then this year they had Mahogany L. Brown. I did not get to see it, unfortunately, but I heard it was really well attended. And it appears as though the Urbana Free Library was very happy with that. So that was on Thursday evening at the Urbana Free Library in downtown Urbana. Later that night, at the Rose Bowl Tavern, we presented a student band, the Data Waves, who are a kind of funk jazz fusion act that really has come along quite nicely in the last 4 years. Kind of been watching them develop over time, and we felt like we had the right slot for them. And so we offered that to a local band to support, a band from Austin, Texas called the Black Pumas, who were really one of the steals of the festival. We're fortunate enough to be really close with a management group in Austin, Texas, run by my friend Ryan, who happened to actually grow up in Champaign and still doing some really good work. Black Pumas, surprisingly, I think to their surprise, a couple months later, were nominated for a Grammy Award for Best New Artist. They're going to lose that award. There's no possible scenario where they're going to take out Billie Eilish or I think
forget who
there's
else
one
is
other
nominated,
that's
but
like,
yeah.
yeah, right. But
But
like,
still,
what an honor! Like,
amazing
look,
band, yeah.
Maybe they'll win, and then
Shock the world.
yeah,
you know?
then we can all just retire to the long sleep. But
we have them right here.
they were amazing. Like they were truly like stunning in their presentation. 9-piece band, 10-piece band, 3 backup singers, and just like this really engaging and beautiful, soulful, bluesy, funky. It was just everything you want in a show with a cold beer in your hand. We're on TV, aren't we? That's a bar. It doesn't matter. It's going to be legal in January anyway. Alcohol, I mean. Finally.
That too, yeah.
Later that night, we had an act called Captured by Robots. Look, J-Bot, this crazy, this guy's amazing. He actually had a band from Carbondale in the 80s and 90s called the Blue Meanies, who I remember seeing at Mabel's.
Oh, my God.
And he went on to do this project, Captured by Robots. And I'm telling you, you should Google search this if you didn't get a chance to see it. What you're seeing here is a robot. And that robot literally plays instruments. It's not like it's like backing track and like one of those like animatronic like Chuck E. Cheese things where they're like, it's literally playing the songs. And there's a drummer too. It's amazing.
Also a robot.
It's really loud and really kind of like metal and like
It's gnarly.
it's gnarly. But it's amazing that this guy does this. He's been coming and playing what?
Those are not real flames, by the way.
Oh no, they are not real
There's
flames,
no fire.
but they should have been.
But yeah. Yeah.
How's your liability
Yeah,
insurance?
no real flames. They're like they're like paper things, But
He was smoking then?
was he?
When he played, he was really smoking.
I think he was vaping in the alley, like the rest of us. Look, this was a really tremendous performance and had a nice tie to the history of Champaign-Urbana's music scene. Ward Gollings, another promoter in town, has probably brought them through like 6 or 7 times, and we were both really elated to get him back. Funding from the Arts and Culture Commissioner, dude finally cashed his check this week.
Finally.
Well, you get to a point where it's like, what's up? Okay, so we did another reading. This was in partnership with IPRH, an institute at the University of Illinois, Institute for Program and Research in the Humanities, who have been unbelievably supportive of us over the last year and are evidently going to continue to support us in some bigger ways. Michelle Zahner, her band, Japanese Breakfast, is from Philadelphia. They spent 3 days here, kind of soaking up a lot of our community and getting to be involved in a lot of different ways. One of the ways that we engaged her also happens to be managed by my friend Ryan in Austin. Is she read a chapter from a forthcoming book called Crying in the H Mart. And we had another tremendous artist from town, Jen Hood, from the band
Chickadee
Sermon, do an intro for her, and she read a wonderful chapter from that book to an audience at Krannert Center while the Human Library was going on, presented by the University of Illinois Library System, and the Technology and Innovation demo that Patrick curates every year in conjunction with NCSA and Parkland College and Beckman Institute and all kinds of really interesting organizations and units of the university and of our community. So that was a really cool reading. That night at the Canopy Club, a pretty sweet act, Beach Bunny, opened up the show for what will be
A little out of order here, but that's okay.
Japanese Breakfast at Canopy Club. It was a really well-attended show. Really hit on a lot of different things that we're continuing to try to find space for, and that's, in some ways, how do we preserve rock music in the face of a dwindling type of interest, but we're still pretty committed to it, even though we've diversified what we're presenting. Japanese Breakfast kind of really embodies what I think can still be great about kind of traditional guitar music.
So I think this is technically chronological, though it was happening.
Oh, right, because of the timing, right, exactly.
So
Yeah.
just across the street, while between Beach Bunny and Japanese Breakfast, comedian Michelle Wolf was performing at Krannert Center. So she was one of our headlining comedians, which kind of fits into our Think programming. So we're, she's a fantastic comedian, and we were really proud to present her. All right, we're on to Friday.
Friday.
Back downtown Urbana.
So this was a really interesting one that fell into our lap, and one that we were hot to get when it came around. So Bugarins, I believe, I think it's Bugarins. I think I like saying Bugarins more, but
Brazilian. Yeah.
yeah. So they're from Brazil, and again, brought the house down. Really well attended. The proprietors of Rose Bowl, of course, have undergone something of a transformation as far as like what it means to have adopted a 70-year-old space that is literally called the home of country music. And to lift the quote from Charlie Harris, one of the owners, they're going to keep with that home of country music, but there's a question that follows it, which is, which country? And so I think that kind of embodies that spirit here, in that we were able to present Bugarins from Brazil, which is on the same package as Mudu Maktar from Niger. And both acts brought this kind of sensational energy to the space. It's an odd thing to be able to present shows at the Rose Bowl after all these years in this context, because I think that the community here has, kind of already defined it, and to redefine it even over the last 6 months, we're honored to participate that with the owners and get excited about what it can hold as time goes on. I think that they're going to end up being at the center of what I think is now, what we all agree, a renaissance for arts and culture in Urbana. And the space kind of holds, in some ways, some unlimited potential. So this was a really fun show to present, and it was awesome. Like, really great. I'll let you talk about this one.
So Carly Beth is a local band consisting of a bunch of local musicians, obviously, but they all kind of like play in a bunch of other local bands, and they've kind of like formed together this other project that's kind of a scuzzy punk band. Camilla Gulwacki and Isabel, I can't remember her last name, and Christina
Scuzzy's
Palin.
a positive thing.
Yeah, it's good.
Very
It's
positive.
good. So we had this 3-band bill that was happening at Blackbird, so it kind of just sat adjacent to the show that was happening at Rose Bowl.
What's our time here? Sorry.
Yeah,
Are you sure? Yeah. Okay.
we can speed it up.
Yeah, we can, yeah.
So this band, Retirement Party, played after that at Blackbird, and then another
Retirement Party's
band,
from Chicago.
Chicago, and then this band called Bleached, who we'd had a few years back at Pygmalion, and we had the opportunity to get them again.
It was a really nice moment for us, because we tend to not repeat acts, and Bleached performed in 2013 at Mike and Molly's, and had a really tough experience, because one of the members got chucked from the venue for getting into a fight, and like it was this whole thing, and then that member very publicly got sober and kind of rebuilt their situation. And when we were pitched it again, they were like, they want to do right by the places where they maybe messed up and hurt people's feelings. And we were like, you know what, we don't really repeat acts, but like, let's do it. And it was a great conversation between us. And I think when you're around long enough, you end up running into people from the past that, could go either way. This was one of the ones that went the right way. So this was a great one as well. Okay, so Anthony Porowski, if you're familiar with him, he's the food and beverage connoisseur from the show Queer Eye. And, he was a big get for us. And one of the things that we were tasked with upon booking him was finding the right moderator for the conversation. And because Michelle Zauner has her own show on Vice TV about her experiences growing up as a Korean American with history from her mother and cooking at home, we thought it would be a fun inter-festival engagement to have Michelle actually moderate the conversation. The two of them hit it off. Looks like they're still buddies to the day based on what I'm seeing on social media. And there was well over 1,200 people in the room for this particular show. It's talk.
Cooking
yeah,
demo.
yeah,
It was
engagement.
all sorts of things.
Lecture/cooking demo. And to be able to present it in the Great Hall at Krannert Center is just, again, like one of these moments where you're like, I am so proud of everything, and really honored to be part of it.
And one thing that we tried to do even more this year was capture particular photographs of these two people and other artists that we had. So, we just so happens that both of our partners are photographers. So basically, we asked the people that represent both of these individuals to take photos with us, and that way they can post these photographs on their own respective social media. Anthony just so happens to have 4 million Instagram followers, and
Posted photo.
Michelle, he posted it, and it just gets tons and tons of attention. So that's another way that we're trying to make Pygmalion and the artists that come here appear larger than they are within the scope of what we're doing. So those are just kind of sort of engagements that we're doing to make Urbana bigger.
I'll let you speak to PigHack and the partnerships.
So as we've probably discussed in our previous pitches, we do a hackathon, which is an event that has taken on a variety of forms over the 3 years that we've done it. This year we moved it to Krannert Center, starting on Friday and going into Saturday. Traditionally, these are 24-hour events based in technology and innovation. They appeals to a wide variety of individuals that might not necessarily engage with our programming in other ways, but they are interested in building and creating and doing for the betterment of this community. So, the goal is to create and help make something that will make Champaign-Urbana a better place. Engaging with a variety of organizations like now that it's just totally escaping me, some of the things that we're doing.
The data sets.
Yeah, the data. So we provide a bunch of data projects built through a data science group that essentially engages with organizations throughout town, whether it's Danielle Chenoweth with the work that she's doing, or the Art Theater, or the Public Health District. Organizations that need help in this arena that might not have the wherewithal or ability to do it themselves. So it's essentially a competition. So we've been utilizing this as a way to not just build something that's good for the community, but help organizations within the structure of Urbana. So this was a great success. I mean, we had 25 projects at the end that are all worthy of our attention. So the goal is to continue to work on those into the future and make sure that they're helping out organizations that need the help.
And I think something to note about the hackathon is that it's not either of our vocations. I mean, traditionally a hackathon is something that is rooted in programming and coding and computer language that is just yeah, right. But people are obviously very, very deeply into it for good reason. One of the things that we've been trying to do as the years have gone on is find space for things that aren't our own, and to allow people who understand better a place at the table to develop that. We had nice partnerships this year with Research Park and with the Siebel Center for Design that really helped us kind of lift the veil on what this was, bring it out into the open at Krannert Center, and then furthermore create space for people that are not programmers or coders, which I think is an interchangeable word if I'm thinking correctly. It's about design thinking, and that's something that we're learning about as time goes on. And what does it mean to be a designer? And is it limited to your ability to fit zeros and ones together? And the answer is, no. And so how do we get poets to work with coders, and how do we get those same coders to work with, electricians or plumbers to solve problems? Just because you can do something in a computer language doesn't understand that you understand the creativity behind design. And so this is about finding great ways to build something with a wide variety of, brain activity between people. It's about putting people together. And so one of the things that we've already started doing for next year and working towards 2020 is that we've had discussions with Unit 4 and University Laboratory School, and we'll continue to do that potentially with 116 and Academy High and potentially others. How do we get young people high schoolers to get into the room, because let's face it, in a lot of ways, it's those young people that have ideas that are not bound by the word no yet. And so when we get those in there, that's when we start to see this really tremendous moment of creativity. So that's something to note for next year as we continue to figure out what this is going to even be.
And that piece is free and all ages, so that's
Oh, and
important
open to the
to
public,
open
yeah.
to the public.
Yeah,
So that's
exactly.
important to note.
Not to interrupt you too much, but you are over time.
Okay.
So you
Okay.
might have to
We'll zip
This
go
was a
little
great
more
act
quickly.
from Minneapolis, Do a Soleil. They crushed it, opening for JID, who also
Amazing rapper.
just about sold out show at Canopy Club. Jerry Paper.
Indie rock.
It was interesting to me. It was good.
So these were
Pig
ones
Hack
that were help
winners,
funded
yeah.
by, and then here's the Pig Hack winners
Yeah.
at the end of Saturday.
Eric Andre,
our headliner and headlining comedian, crazy show
Very
at
sold out.
Canopy Club. Then the Made Fest, which took place throughout the weekend on Friday and Saturday.
Yeah.
This is just one snapshot of one of the artists that was working, and that's it.
That's it. Sorry. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah. We zipped
If
through
you
the
allow
end.
us to pontificate about the things that we do,
could talk about it for a while.
we turn into very self-absorbed people, and I'm sorry about that. So yeah, that's.
Would the two of you like to share how many participants you had in your Made Fest too this year in terms of artists?
Oh, we had 37 booths. I'll have to call my
I
wife.
think it's like I believe between 30 and 40 artists.
Yeah.
And how those are kind of like split up between like
Some are full
sharing
booths,
booths.
some are half booths. They're
Yeah.
primarily local, but my wife,
Some
Justine,
regionals.
always is the curator of the event, always really tries to find interesting vendors from outside of town. One in particular does these like design drawings of like different cities and like takes iconography things from different cities. And she did one specifically for Champaign-Urbana, and she was like, I only brought 20, and they got snapped up like right away. I got 2 of them, but they're available online. It's really cool. It's like Alma Mater and Assembly Hall, or sorry, State Farm Center.
And there's a wide variety of like
Yeah.
types of artists, like anything.
Yeah,
from,
all told, 35 to 45 different vendors. I think that's right. Any other questions?
It's great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Enjoy your work.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay.
That's it.
Thank you for coming.
Next, we have Jennifer White of Blues Central to talk about Fallen into the Blues project.
Click that PowerPoint icon on the bottom. And then yours is the last one. If you go to slideshow. From beginning.
Okay. Hello, I'm Jennifer White, and I'm the organizer for Fallen into Blues. Also, I am one of the founders of Blues Central, and our goal is to promote blues dancing in Champaign-Urbana and to introduce people to African American vernacular dance heritage, where blues dancing comes from. So our grant that we wrote was planned to be a mini blues dance festival that would introduce blues dancing to Champaign-Urbana and give people an opportunity to try it out and learn about it. It took place on October 5th. We were originally going to be in the Urbana Dance Company, and that's on a second floor in downtown Urbana. And we found there was some sound problems, and so the way that this was organized was to have multiple activities happening at once, and we felt the sound wouldn't work very well. It was also not quite as accessible. So we ended up going ahead and doing it in the Lincoln Square Mall, which was very accessible to people, a great location, very central, and the sound worked really well there for us. So we did a lot of advertising. We have a lot of volunteers that are excited about blues dancing in Champaign-Urbana, and so we had about 59 hours worth of volunteers just in terms of helping us to advertise. We tried to introduce blues dancing to people in multiple ways. One of the ways was to present this PowerPoint presentation. that talked about what is blues dancing, what is the history of blues dancing, and pointing out the different characteristics of blues dancing that we do nowadays, and also looking at African American vernacular dance heritage. We look back to styles of dance that were done in the past and use those for inspiration for our current community that does blues dancing. Other ways we introduce blues dancing, especially what we do here in Champaign-Urbana, is we had multiple tables. So we had a table that introduced people to where we dance in Champaign. We have free dancing, a weekly dance event, so we had a table to talk to people about that. We also had a table to introduce people to the classes that are taught at Urbana Park District about blues dancing. And in March, we're having a Snowmelt Blues Dance Festival with the opportunity for people to come learn, spend a weekend learning with teachers, national level teachers, and have live bands. So we were introducing people to that at another table, as well as selling tickets for that. So that was another way we were introducing blues to people. And then one of the most fun ways was we were offering free blues dance lessons. So we offered 6 different lessons that were 30 minutes each. So people could kind of come, jump in, give it a try. They could come out throughout the afternoon from 4 to 7:30. And topics were varied so that people could jump in anywhere. They didn't have to be there for everyone. They weren't consecutive. So that worked out really well. We had 2 teachers that we hired. One is a teacher that teaches swing and blues dance, and she's actually in Bloomington, so she came in to teach. She's been teaching for quite a while. And we also had a teacher that is here from Urbana, lives in Urbana, and is kind of a new up-and-coming teacher, so she's learning to teach. So the 2 of them put together a really nice set of classes with kind of fun topics, and I think everyone enjoyed it. We feel like it was really successful. Let me catch up with my notes. And so, as you can see in the background, that we had a band. This is the Painkillers Blues Band with Don Clark, and we had them play for us. So we gave people an opportunity to actually come out and dance to a live band. We had a lot of new people. We were really happy that we had people that had never danced before. We had people that do other types of dancing in Champaign-Urbana and had never tried blues dancing. And then we also had a lot of our blues dancer regulars come out and also dance with people. So that gave people a nice variety of different levels of dancers. And so we were really happy about that. So we actually had a lot of volunteer support. We had over 181 hours, which kind of went over our estimates, our original estimates. We probably had about 100 attendees. The event went from 4 to 9:30. People came and went. So some people came to some of the lessons and then left. Some people came to dance for a while, and some, there's people coming and going. We did a head count at about 8 o'clock during the band, and we had about 45 people there at that time, not including the participants and volunteers that were working at the event. So we were really happy with the turnout for our small dance community. Went really well. Our lessons ranged from about 7 people to 18 people that came out for each of the different lessons. And we had about 14 people that volunteered the day of the event. Yep, I think I talked about that. Oops. This is, on the left, this is Chris Dubb from Bloomington, and on the right, that's Sierra, 2 of our teachers. We got a lot of positive feedback from people that enjoyed the lessons, and we're excited about that. So we feel like they did a great job in kind of breaking everything down into little 30-minute chunks. We were able to bring in the artists, the Painkillers Blues Band, and they did a really nice job. We were really excited about that. They worked with us to identify music in their repertoire that would work for blues dancers, because we do blues dancing, but we don't do, blues dancing is a huge category of music. So there's certain styles that are easier for us to dance to, and also for beginners, different speeds of music are going to be easier for them to identify and dance to. So that went really well, and we really appreciated their helping us with that. We also worked with some local organizations like Folk and Roots, and they came out and they had a table to promote music, blues music. We've worked with them before to do blues lessons at some of their events and at the last Folk and Roots Festival. They were there. Prairie Crossroads Blues Society also had a table. And Spurlock Museum, we are working with Spurlock Museum to do an exhibit and along with our Snowmelt Blues Festival coming up in March. So they were advertising that, as well as I'm working on an oral history project to collect oral histories from African Americans who have danced in their community in and around Champaign and Urbana, and to use that within the exhibit. So they came out and were advertising that, and hopefully getting more people that would be interested in doing oral history interviews with us. And we also had Wood and Hog come out and sell barbecue. We had folks that also ate as well at the businesses in Lincoln Square Mall. And I think we also promoted a little tourism. We brought people I know in from Decatur and Bloomington for this event in Peoria. So those are the ones that I know did come. Okay. We also offered some activities for kids. We didn't get very many kids, but we got a few kids, a few families. So we had coloring. We created a card game, like a matching card game. So they had a few things to do. But they also just came and danced as well. So we were really happy with the diversity. We had all ages, up from children up to a few people in their 90s. So that was really nice. College-age students. And so just a great mix, diverse mix. Okay, so we really appreciate the City of Urbana awarding us the grant for Fallen into Blues and giving us a way to promote blues dancing in Champaign-Urbana and make it an opportunity that everyone can come to. So it extended our visibility in the community through the event itself, and also through our ability just to advertise. And it has allowed us to work with local artists and organizations that we hadn't before. So it's really been a great opportunity to network with other people. So we really appreciate it, and thank you.
Thank you. Sounds like a good start. Anybody have any questions or comments?
Thanks for your presentation. I acknowledge the diversity in age, that you mentioned, but to me, just based on the images and Blues Central website, it doesn't quite look ethnically, racially diverse
Right.
membership. Can you just talk about what you're doing to address that gap and to make the organization more representative of the city of Urbana, people who live here?
Mm-hmm. Well, we did try to hire African American artists, picking specifically having Don Clark be involved, and the Wooden Hog, which is an African American owned business.
To serve the food?
So we have been reaching out with the Oral History Project. We've been able to work with more people and kind of, it's been a way to get information that we can use for the exhibit, but as well as to make connections with people. And personally, I have been working, Chicago Steppin', are you familiar with Chicago Steppin'? It's another African American vernacular dance so blues dancing is very white right now. It's really a mainstream community, revivalist type of looking back, like Lindy Hop is an African-American dance, was taken and became popularized and commercialized later by mainstream. Chicago Step-In is pretty much still primarily African-American communities that do this dance. And so I've been, a few of us have been going out and learning Step-In with some people that are coming down from Chicago. So we travel every Sunday to learn that. And we've been having great success in learning more about this dance, as well as those people have been coming to our blues dance event as well. So there's been a nice interchange. In fact, last Monday, a group of them came and they did stepping at our blues dance event. So we are aware that we really do want to encourage diversity and are doing our best. But yeah,
Thanks.
does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you. And I hadn't heard of this terminology even, so thanks for that information, education. Would you mind just sharing a little bit about your own interests? I mean, just briefly, I'm new to this body, so
Okay.
just like your interest in this form of dancing.
Yeah, well, I started with tango dancing, Argentine tango. I did that for about 15 years. And then I was introduced to Lindy Hop, and then I got interested in blues specifically because it has some similarities in terms of technique with tango. So I've just been interested in dance intensely for a long time. And so blues dancing is not very well known. It's really interesting because to me, it's kind of simple, but it's also very complex. Like there's a really natural, relaxed feeling to it. It should be something that people could do very casually of all generations. It's not extremely athletic. Like Lindy Hop really requires a lot more athleticism. And so it's a great dance for people to, practice throughout their life. And it's a great dance for people to learn when they're older as well as when they're younger. So it's just, I think it's a really interesting dance. And the history is really interesting, learning about the history. I think people are still exploring the history and looking back. Because it's not like that direct descent, people are looking back to videos and old documents to try and find out what the different styles were and learn about those more, and then use those old styles of dance to inspire the new community of dancers.
I do have a question for you. Can you tell me a little bit about the, you mentioned an exhibit at Spurlock. Could you tell me who's involved with the curation of that?
I am. Me.
You are.
Yeah, I work at the Spurlock Museum. I'm a registrar at the Spurlock Museum. And I have been working on this exhibit for the last few months. So we're really just, going up in March, so we're putting a lot of energy and research into it right now. The oral histories, we're going to be representing African American vernacular dance through oral histories. And we're really interested in talking to African Americans that are connected with the Champaign-Urbana area in some way. Either they lived here part of their lives or they were alumni from the university, and get their experiences, which we'll use in the exhibit.
Wouldn't it make sense to for there to be some sort of African American or Black American curatorial voice or?
There would be. I don't know. I have been working. So we don't have someone who's a curator on staff. We actually don't have curators in our museum at all. I have been working with Damon Stone, who's one of the head instructors on the blues dance scene right now, and he's African American, as well as Kenneth Shipp, who comes from St. Louis. And they're two of the main teachers in the blues community, dance community right now, who are African American. And so I have been corresponding with them and working with them as well. We will also have Thomas DeFrance, who is a dance instructor from Duke University and is more in the academic world, who has written a lot about African American dance. We're going to be inviting him to come to our to give some talks and presentations and work with students at the university. So we don't have a person directly hired to this. This was originally just a 2-month little mini exhibit, so we hadn't hired someone specifically to curate this exhibit.
Kind of to Ms. Beck's point, like, are you open, are you interested in working with local, possibly like other museum educators or other people locally who feel like they might have expertise.
Definitely.
Okay. So
Yeah.
if we know people.
We're-
I do know someone at Spur Oak she's not a curator, but she might
Monica?
be interested. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, she's working on this as well
Okay,
with
great.
us.
Good. Good.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so we have another presentation, and it's our last of the evening. It's not a grant presentation, but we have our students from the Social Work 461 class here with us. So I want at this time to invite the three of you up here to the front to give your presentation on your activities of this past semester.
I'll come.
Great. Good evening, all. My name is Corinne Karmazinas, and these are my colleagues, Camelia and Sylvia. And we come from the University of Illinois, and today we present to you our presentation called Learning Through Service, which is a brief look at our past 3 months here interning with the City of Urbana Arts and Culture Program. So please enjoy. So before we get started, just want to give you a little bit about us so you know who you're hearing from. My name is Corinne, as I mentioned, and my major is social work. I am primarily interested in working with refugee and immigrant populations post-graduation.
And then, hi, my name is Camelia Roman. I'm living in a northwest suburb called South Elgin, and I'm majoring in social work, along with a minor in Latina Studies. And my main interest is working with community healthcare, just kind of giving back to people in macro settings. So that's what intrigued me to the program.
Hi, my name is Sylvia Lyle, and I'm a senior along with them. I'm from Chicago, Illinois, and I'm majoring in social work and minoring in Spanish and criminology. My interest post-grad is working with at-risk youth, especially like in the juvenile detention center or in schools.
So as the presentation unfolds, you will just hear about a little bit about our class that facilitates the service learning opportunity and why we chose the City of Urbana Arts and Culture Program, our involvement with the program, and how this experience has propelled us towards our desired career in helping us with this field. So a little bit about our class. So it's the Social Work 461 Professional Practice Seminar. And so the main purpose of this class is to strengthen students' foundational knowledge of generalist practice and foster opportunities for real-life application. So we would meet with Rachel for about weeklies for about 2 hours to have a total of 26 hours. So that would either be coming in on Mondays, just to meet with her, kind of update on a weekly basis of different events that would happen monthly, or we would go out to the community events on the weekends, which you'll see later in the presentation. So all of this service learning is to help us prepare for our internship that we'll have next spring with different agencies in the community of Urbana or Champaign, so just helping us with that.
So we want to talk a little bit about why we chose to come with the City of Urbana Arts and Culture Program. And for me, it was primarily my interest because I have a strong connection with the arts. My mom was an art educator when I was a child, and I just love how this program speaks to the interconnectedness of not only culture and diversity, but also culture and art together. So that was why I chose this program.
So what initially drew me to this program was I didn't really know too much about the Urbana population. I was more familiar with Champaign, so I wanted to familiarize myself more with what the city gives. And I didn't even know that they had an arts and culture program, so I was really intrigued by that. And so I really enjoyed seeing all of the different community events that Rachel and her colleagues had put together, just to show how diverse Urbana really is, and that really opened my eyes to see just how much like community and networking goes a long way in preparing these events that can also reach out to students at the University of Illinois. So yeah.
I actually had a look at the Urbana Arts and Culture Program website, so I was drawn to the mission and vision of the City of Urbana Arts and Culture Program. And I liked how they worked with many age groups and collaborated with different organizations, such as our Urbana Free Library. And throughout our experience here, we did get that one-on-one experience. And throughout the time, we also facilitated some of the young artist studios. So going forward, we will talk about our experience throughout the City of Urbana Arts and Culture Program. You may have heard some of these events from Rachel's presentation, but we're just going more in depth about them and how, what we took part in them and what we got out of them. So to begin with, I hosted a workshop called Ballet Folklorico, and Ballet Folklorico is a Mexican tradition dance that comes from different regions of Mexico, and from cities such as Guerrero, San Luis Potosí, La Ciudad de Mexico. They may seem alike dances, but they all have different steps. So in this workshop, I worked with different age groups. They were mostly 4 to 10-year-olds, and they were with their parents as well. I taught them different basic steps of Ballet Folklorico, and since we didn't have like the tradition Mexican dress, we used like tiny scarves that would be like the dresses. So they each had 2 scarves in their hand, and then they'd pretend it was the skirt, and they'd lift it throughout the workshop. Besides this, I asked like the kids who felt comfortable that they knew all the steps, and then they stepped forward and they presented to the rest of the kids and their parents. I also had the parents go up there and show the kids what they learned. And at the end, I just gave like a small performance to them. And when I was giving the performance, I used some of the steps that I taught them throughout the workshop. So I would just tell them, oh, call out the name, and they'd be yelling the name that they learned. So that was the first workshop.
And here are just some photos from her workshop. You can see Sylvia on the right. Next, we did a young artist studio called Create Your Own Masterpiece. This one was spearheaded by Camille and myself, but Sylvia also pitched in on the day of. And this took place on November 10th, and we had supplies provided by the Urbana Free Library of all forms. We had paint, markers, crayons, colored pencils, different types of paper, other things that the children could paste onto the paper. And we really wanted to foster a space of creativity. So we had a slideshow of ideas, but we really wanted to foster different ideas. So as they arose, we let them run with it. And it was a really fun turnout. We had about 20 to 30 people, including children and their parent or guardian. And here are just a couple photos from that event.
And then also we had the Hocus Pocus screening that took place the day before Halloween at the Urbana Free Library. So that had a lot of different things, activities that community members could do along with their children. That included like a pop-up booth, photo booth, and pumpkin decorating, costume contest, along with the screening of Hocus Pocus. And then all of us were able to kind of see the behind the scenes of what was going to go on in planning it. We were able to go with Rachel in talks with one of the librarians at the library, just kind of see how diligent and how extensive this kind of process takes to gather up the budget, gather up the resources, and just kind of like the time and place over this will take place. So that was really enriching for us to see just what goes on behind the scenes of an event that might not seem as extensive, but like behind the scenes there's a lot of work that goes into it. And then same thing, there's a bunch of pictures, and then there's Corinne in her costume with Rachel.
And lastly, we just want to go over the Belongings exhibit that was on May 20th at the Spurlock Museum. So the Belongings exhibit was a collection of photographs and short stories from local immigrants exploring identity, artifact, memory, and the meaning of home. Throughout this event, we had musicians and other live performances such as Ballet Folklorico, and we even have a local poet on the scene too. Throughout this event, they read stories about their home, their childhood, and if they didn't want to read it, like Rachel mentioned before, there were volunteers that were able to read that. Also, this was the first year ever that the exhibition included a display of the artifacts at the Spurlock Museum. So the event was like in the first floor, and the exhibit was upstairs. And if you go to the next slideshow, that's what was at the Spurlock Museum. So now I want to talk a little bit about how it relates to social work. One of the most important things that I took away from this is that it includes a lot of the social work core competencies. For example, one of the most important one that I noticed was competency 2, which is engage diversity and difference in practice. Diversity and difference characterize and shape the human experiences. We had the opportunity to interact with different age groups, students, parents, children, so that was really important. Another thing that we noticed was opportunities for dialogue across cultural differences, which kind of goes hand in hand with the core competency number 2, and it created space for marginalized people.
A little bit more over on that. So it was just really nice to see the different takeaways that we had. So we had many opportunities to learn and experience these different things through Rachel's guidance and help. And one of the biggest takeaways was the delegation and collaboration are really key to planning these different events, especially with different parties and kind of going along with the different likes and needs that the city of Urbana has. And throughout our time with Rachel, we saw how much time and effort she put into planning these events, and she worked with many organizations and companies to make these events happen. And in her diligence doing all these things and juggling with meetings and schedules and setting up, it was really a motivation of just how we can go along with our careers and our future. So it was really good experience for all of us.
All right, so in closing, we just want to extend our deep great thanks for you guys, the commission, and also to Rachel, our supervisor, for fostering this opportunity and giving us an opportunity to collaborate with not only you guys, but also the community, because as students, we're often trapped in our little bubble of campus, and we don't often get out to see what's the good work that's happening in our community. So again, thank you to all of you.
Thank you.
I know we've been here for a little while, but I just want to take a quick moment to sing the accolades of these three. These students have come in at a time in the semester that can sometimes be also stressful for students, which is especially social work students in that year before or that semester before their spring internship time. So if you didn't know, social work has an internship field placement requirement of the degree, and this is really a practicum that serves as like a precursor to that. The fact that we were also able to get the arts and culture program to really be a part of really thinking through what social work is, I think was an exciting a thing for our program to forge that relationship and carry that forward. So we're excited to continue to be a possible field placement for students who are exploring the role of the arts in how they contribute to healing, to community integration and connection, and what we can really see as the inextricable relationship between those two things, both the social issues, social work, and the arts. So I was really delighted at all of their efforts. They took a lot of leadership in this short period of time, averaging just a couple hours a week. They were out at our farmers markets. They were out at our events. As you could see, they led workshops for young people and designed those workshops from the ground up. So I just want to sing their praises because all three of you have done such fantastic work, and thank you for your time with our program.
Okay, any announcements before we end up? Okay. In that case, I move that we adjourn. Have I got a second? Okay. Thanks, everybody. Have great holidays. Yeah. Enjoy.